Between shadows and light. It was a rainy morning in a small countryside town when Laura, a young art teacher, met Caio, a mysterious book restorer at the municipal library. The encounter was casual, but something in his eyes caught her attention, a mix of sadness and intensity. He seemed to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, yet there was a spark in him that Laura couldn't ignore. On the other hand, Caio noticed in Laura a lightness he hadn't felt in a long time. Laura lived with her mother Clara, who was battling a severe illness. The young woman divided her time between caring for her and teaching at the local school. Caio, in turn, had recently moved to the town to escape a painful past. The death of his wife in a car accident, for which he deeply blamed himself. He sought redemption and isolation, but fate seemed to have other plans when it placed Laura in his path. Their encounters at the library became frequent. Caio, who restored old manuscripts, always brought fascinating stories about the books he worked on, while Laura spoke passionately about the art of conveying emotions through colors and forms. Their conversations flowed naturally, and a genuine friendship began to blossom. Still, both harbored their own fears and insecurities, afraid to reveal their shadows. Over time, the attraction between them became evident. But Caio resisted any deeper connection. He believed he didn't deserve happiness again, while Laura didn't want to burden him with her own challenges. However, the bond they felt was impossible to ignore, and each other's presence gradually became essential. One day, Laura invited Caio to her home to meet her mother. Clara, even in her frail state, had a sharp and welcoming gaze. She immediately perceived Caio's emotional tension and, in a private conversation, said something that deeply moved him. "Light only enters through cracks. You don't need to be perfect to deserve love." These words left him unsettled, but also made him reflect on the possibility of starting over. The relationship between Laura and Caio began to bloom, but not without conflicts. Caio was still haunted by his past, and in moments of crisis, distanced himself from Laura. She tried to be understanding, but also felt the pain of not being able to fully reach his heart. It was as if they were in a constant dance between shadows and light, striving to find balance. The situation became more difficult when Clara's condition worsened, and she had to be hospitalized. Laura split her time between the hospital and teaching, growing increasingly exhausted. Caio wanted to help her, but hesitated due to his fear of emotional involvement. Once again, it was Clara who intervened, calling him to the hospital and urging him not to give up on Laura. "If you love her, fight for her. Don't let your shadows steal the light she brings into your life." Clara's hospitalization became the catalyst for Caio to confront his fears. He began to share more of his story with Laura, revealing the guilt he carried for his wife's death. With patience and empathy, Laura showed him he couldn't bear the burden alone, and that true love meant supporting each other, even in the darkest moments. The days at the hospital were intense, but also served to strengthen Laura and Caio's relationship. He started to be by her side at every moment, showing he had decided to fight for their love. When Clara passed away, the pain was immense, but Laura found comfort in Caio, who for the first time in years allowed himself to be a pillar of support for someone else. With time, Caio also began to forgive himself. He returned to his projects with renewed passion and even got involved in community activities, inspired by Laura's generosity. Together, they decided to organize an art and literature exhibition at the local school to honor Clara and unite their passions. The exhibition was a success, and on that day, Caio publicly declared his feelings for Laura. He said, "You brought light to the darkness of my life, and taught me that love is what gives meaning to what we do. I want to walk beside you, through shadows and light, because with you, even the shadows are beautiful." Laura, deeply moved, accepted that commitment of love with a radiant smile. They weren't perfect, but they had learned to embrace their scars, turning them into strength to move forward. The past would remain a part of them, but now it was just a chapter in a story, promising a future full of light. Together, they began planning a new life. They decided to open a school of art and literature, where they could share their passions and inspire others. The project became a symbol of their love and resilience, showing that even among the shadows, it's possible to find light. Caio and Laura learned that true love isn't about perfection, but about accepting and embracing each other's imperfections. They chose to live each day with intensity, knowing that together they could face any challenge. After all, they had proven that even in the face of the greatest dramas, love is capable of triumphing. With the opening of the School of Art and Literature, Laura and Caio found a greater purpose for their lives. The space quickly became a refuge for young people and adults seeking to express themselves or overcome their own struggles. Every corner of the school exuded their essence. Laura's painting classes were filled with vibrant colors and emotions, while Caio's book restoration workshops brought past lives' stories back to form. The challenges, however, did not fade over time. Running a school required dedication, planning, and often financial sacrifices. But instead of letting difficulties separate them, Laura and Caio chose to face them together. They established a rule: never end the day without resolving any disagreement that might arise. This made them even closer. One of the school's students, Yulia, a shy teenager who had recently lost her mother, became a kind of mirror to both their pasts. Laura saw in her the same strength she had sought when she lost Clara, and Caio saw a reflection of his own repressed pain. They decided to invest time in helping Julia overcome her struggles, which led them to create an emotional support project within the school. The relationship with Yulia made Caio reflect on his past again, but now in a more mature way. He decided to visit his wife's grave, something he had avoided since her death. Laura accompanied him, offering her silent but meaningful support. That day, Caio felt an unexpected relief, as if he was finally freeing himself from the burden he had carried for years. Meanwhile, the school began to gain regional recognition. One day, they received a visit from a journalist interested in telling the story of the couple and how they had turned their pain into inspiration for others. The report, published in a local newspaper, brought even more students and supporters to the school, solidifying Laura and Caio's impact on the community. As the school grew, the need for a larger space arose. Caio came up with the idea of restoring an old abandoned mansion in the town and turning it into a bigger headquarters. The project was ambitious, but he and Laura counted on the help of friends, students, and volunteers. The work was hard, but every detail of the new space carried the essence of the couple and the story they had built. During the restoration process, Laura found an old notebook in the mansion, filled with poetry written by someone who had lived there decades earlier. Inspired by the verses, she decided to create an exhibition at the school to celebrate the legacy of forgotten stories. Caio took charge of restoring the notebook, while Laura coordinated the event. Once again, their skills complemented each other perfectly. On the day of the new headquarters inauguration, emotions ran high. During the opening speech, Caio declared that the space was not just a school, but a symbol of resilience, love, and transformation. Laura, deeply moved, reinforced that the true purpose of the place was to show that even in the shadows, art and literature could bring light to any life. As years passed, Laura and Caio continued to grow together. They decided to formalize their union in a simple ceremony held in the school's garden. Surrounded by friends, students, and colleagues, they exchanged vows that touched everyone. For them, that moment wasn't just about the love they felt for each other, but also about everything they had built together. The ceremony was marked by symbolic gestures. During the vows, each planted a tree in the school's garden, representing their roots and the growth they had achieved as a couple. The trees, side by side, became a permanent landmark of their love's strength and the impact they had on so many lives. Though the school was the heart of their lives, Laura and Caio also found time for themselves. They decided to travel once a year to explore different cultures and seek new inspirations for their classes. In every destination, they found ways to connect their experiences to their work at the school, further enriching the students' lives. During a trip to Italy, they visited an art gallery where Laura was moved by a painting that seemed to depict her own journey. A woman walking toward a distant light while shadows surrounded her. Caio bought the painting and brought it to the school, where it became a symbol of the perseverance they so deeply valued. The years brought new changes, but Laura and Caio's love remained constant. They faced difficult moments together, like the temporary closure of the school during an economic crisis. Despite the hardships, they never gave up on their dreams and always found creative ways to move forward. The impact they had on the community was immense. Many former students returned years later to thank them for everything they had learned and the support they had received. One, inspired by Caio, opened his own book restoration workshop in another city. Another, who started as one of Laura's shy students, became a renowned painter and credited his success to the confidence she instilled in him. Over time, Laura and Caio began delegating more responsibilities at the school to new teachers, allowing them more moments of tranquility. They enjoyed walking around the town, visiting places that brought back good memories, and, most importantly, celebrating the present. Each walk was an opportunity to remember how much they had overcome together. On one of these walks, Caio stopped in front of the old library where they had first met. He looked at Laura and said, "This is where my life began again. If I could go back in time, I'd tell the man I was that everything is worth it when you find the right light to guide you." Laura smiled and replied, "And I'd tell that young woman that it's worth believing, even when everything seems dark." As time went on, the school became a legacy that transcended generations. Laura and Caio decided to write a book together, narrating their story and the lessons they had learned along the way. The book, titled Through Shadows and Light, became a success and inspired people in different places to face their own shadows and seek the light. In their old age, Laura and Caio found a serenity that only those who have lived fully can understand. They spent afternoons in the school garden, watching the trees they had planted grow stronger and stronger. The sound of students' laughter and the scent of flowers reminded them they had created something enduring. When Caio passed away, already at an advanced age, Laura felt immense longing, but also infinite gratitude for everything they had lived together. She continued at the school, now supported by their children and grandchildren, who had inherited their passion for art and literature. Their love, even in physical absence, continued to light her life. Even after Caio's passing, his presence remained alive in every detail of the school and in Laura's heart. She found comfort in her memories and in the fruits of everything they had built together. The trees they planted side by side had become imposing symbols of resilience and love. Laura spent hours beneath their shade, revisiting the lessons they had learned throughout their shared journey. The school, now under the management of Laura and Caio's children, continued to thrive. Each of them found their own place within the institution, further expanding the reach of their parents' legacy. Sophia, the eldest daughter, took on the artistic side with the same passion as Laura, while Daniel, the youngest son, led literature and creative writing projects, inspired by Caio's dedication. Laura decided it was time to step away from administrative responsibilities and take time to care for herself and contribute in other ways. She began to focus on writing, creating children's stories that blended elements of fantasy and life lessons. Many of the tales were inspired by her own journey with Caio, adapted to teach values to new generations. Laura's books became popular, reaching readers beyond the borders of their city. She started receiving invitations to literary events and lectures, where she shared her vision of how art and literature could transform lives. During these travels, Laura often met people who had been touched by her story and thanked her for showing that even in shadows, there is always a light waiting to be found. On one of these trips, Laura reunited with an old friend, Yulia, a young girl who had been a student at the school years earlier. Now an adult, Yulia had become a psychologist working with vulnerable youth. She thanked Laura for believing in her during such difficult times, affirming that the school had been a turning point in her life. The reunion deeply moved Laura, who saw in Julia living proof that every effort was worth it. While Laura embraced new experiences, the school continued to be a pillar in the community. An annual event, called the Shadows and Light Festival, became the city's main attraction. During the festival, former students, teachers, and local artists gathered to celebrate the impact of art and literature. Although Laura no longer managed the event, she was always an honored guest, welcomed with affection and admiration. At one such festival, Sophia revealed a special gift for Laura, an exhibition dedicated to her and Caio's story. The display included photos, letters, objects restored by Caio, and paintings created by Laura over the years. The centerpiece was the painting Laura had bought in Italy, symbolizing the journey she and Caio had lived together. Laura couldn't hold back her tears upon seeing the impact her life had had on so many people. As time went by, Laura felt she was fulfilling her purpose in the world. In her later years, she devoted more time to her spirituality and her connection with nature. She often visited the school's garden, where the trees continued to grow side by side, and where she felt Caio's presence more strongly than ever. That space became a sanctuary, a place where she connected with the past and found strength to move forward. Laura and Caio's children, now parents themselves, began passing on the values they had inherited to the next generation. The grandchildren grew up hearing stories about the couple and, inspired by them, developed a strong interest in art and literature. The school became a true family institution, preserving traditions while innovating to meet the demands of an ever-changing world. One day, while walking in the garden, Laura felt a profound sense of peace. It was as if the cycle of her life had come full circle. She sat beneath the trees she and Caio had planted and began writing her final letter to him. In the letter, she thanked him for all the moments they had shared, the challenges they had overcome, and the light he had brought into her life. As she finished, she felt it was time to rest. Laura passed away peacefully, leaving behind a life filled with meaning. Her funeral was a deeply moving event, with hundreds of people coming to pay their respects. Each person had a story about how Laura had inspired or transformed their lives. Sophia and Daniel decided to plant another tree beside their parents in honor of the mother they so dearly loved and admired. The legacy of Laura and Caio became eternal. The school continued to grow, expanding its influence to other cities. The name Through Shadows and Light became synonymous with hope, resilience, and love. Teachers and students carried forward the lessons learned, ensuring that the couple's essence remained alive in every generation that passed through its doors. Laura and Caio's grandchildren decided to carry on their grandparents' work, bringing innovation and fresh perspectives. One of them, passionate about technology, developed a virtual platform to expand the school's reach, allowing people from different parts of the world to access its classes and resources. The school became a global reference in art and literature. The story of Laura and Caio was immortalized not only in their actions, but also in the books they had written. Through Shadows and Light became required reading in many schools and inspired films, plays, and documentaries. The message that love and art can transform lives touched hearts around the world. Even decades later, the school's garden remained a special place. Laura and Caio's trees stood tall, now surrounded by others planted by generations that followed them. The space served as a living testament that, no matter how challenging the path, it is possible to leave a lasting impact. The lessons of Laura and Caio were never forgotten. Their descendants continue to celebrate the couple's journey, organizing events in their memory and keeping alive the traditions they had established. For them, their grandparents' story was a guiding compass, leading them toward a future where art, love, and compassion always prevailed. Today, the legacy of Through Shadows and Light is a powerful reminder that everyone has the ability to turn their shadows into something beautiful. Laura and Caio's story became a universal example of resilience, showing that even in the darkest moments, it is possible to find light alongside the one you love. And so, the memory of Laura and Caio lives on, not only in the hearts of their family and friends, but also in every life touched by their journey. They prove that true love not only overcomes the shadows, but also has the power to illuminate the entire world. The school, now more vibrant than ever, stands as a concrete testament that where there is unity, persistence, and love, there is also a light that never fades. Laura and Caio's story continues to inspire, reminding us that no matter how difficult the challenges, it is always worth fighting for what truly matters. And so, Laura and Caio's story proved that, no matter how dark the circumstances, true love has the power to transform lives and leave an eternal legacy. Through Shadows and Light was not just a title for their journey, but a philosophy of life they spread wherever they went. If you felt inspired by this story of love, resilience, and transformation, subscribe to the channel to follow more content like this. Until the next video.